So with the election in full swing, people are giving the Liberal Democrats a considerable amount of time. Many believing that they hold the key to the future of the United Kingdom. Doubt. I think the more Jo Swinson speaks, the more unlikable she gets because she's yet to rein in the absolute condescension she exudes. The Liberal Democrats have actually published their manifesto, and I want to address a few of the points from it. The first one, and the most obvious one, stop Brexit. If the Liberal Democrats win, which they won't, they will revoke Article 50 and cancel Brexit. I would love to know then what she would do for those people that she is now outright betraying. I would like to know what she would do with the EU when it comes to our membership going forward. Do we become some kind of backbencher, even though we have one of the biggest economies in the world? Then again, it is well established that she has no real respect for our current status, not holding within herself enough optimism to see us as a player on the global stage, thinking that the only way we can succeed is by being there with the peanut gallery. Right. Credit where it's due, she is the only one willing to outright say she will revoke Article 50, as Labour have said they'll do another vote, and respect it. Totally. Right. Doubt. But also the argument about delivering additional public spending. We stay in the EU, she believes she can pledge about 50 billion, which would be a Remain bonus to the economy that could then be spent on public services. The next pledge is a penny income tax for the NHS, the intention being to raise 7 billion over 5 years, which is a total of 35 billion. The concept being 1 penny in every pound extra on income tax will, according to the manifesto, be ring-fenced to be spent on the NHS and social care. But, based on how they framed it, it is vague. The concept is vague. And it just means that the party is promising 7 billion a year more for health and social care, and identifies how it might be raised, the revenue that is. But how the money is spent is the mystery, really. The bureaucracy of the NHS is quite a large sum of money. The big problem in this is that in an economic downturn, the tax receipts might fall, and if so, the government would feel obliged to cut health and social care spending if they have any understanding whatsoever of health and social care and the economy. And it should be noted that if the Treasury is obliged to top up funding from the central pot, the benefits of the hypothecation would be lost. Next, free childcare. All children aged 2 to 4 qualify for 35 hours a week, 48 weeks a year, for children whose parents are in work, and it starts from 9 months. Oddly, I actually semi-support this. My sisters have enough issues trying to get care for their children if they try and find jobs and are unable to get jobs because their children aren't in full-time education yet. But the expansion of free childcare represents 13 billion a year as a cost to the taxpayer. If our economy is strong enough to afford it, fine. If it is not, let's put it on the back burner for the time being, shall we? But, much like Labour, the Liberal Democrats are quite happy to absolutely hammer the taxpayers without realising they have to hammer the poor as well. It should be noted, parents earning over £100,000 a year do not qualify. I also want to point out that Boris Johnson's more recent tax-rated policy would see many people save about $450 a year in national insurance contributions by raising that bar to $12,500. I think it's the tax bar as well. I don't think Labour are willing to do that. I think if they had their way, they'd take it back down to $6,000, and I think the Liberal Democrats would do it too. 4. Generate 80% of electricity from renewables. This is a rather ambitious target. This is ambitious because it calls for this to be done by 2030. We're already on a path of decarbonisation in the UK. 40% of our electricity produced by wind, solar and biomass has been done in the third quarter of this year. And recent projections suggest the contribution is set to rise to just under 50% over the next decade. So you'd have to invest a lot of money very fast and get it done. Get it in! Which is unlikely. The 5th policy of interest. tax frequent flyers. So those who take the most international flights face a tax rise, which costs would come down for people who take 1 or 2 flight returns a year. The reason for this is obviously to fight climate change. I get it. However, statistics suggest a frequent flyer levy could be justified. More than half of those surveyed by the Department of Transport said that they had not taken any flights in the previous 12 months. The policy becomes less radical, though, when you consider that people only take 1 or 2 return flights a year, and therefore they only pay less tax. We also, by the way, have one of the highest rates of airport passenger duty in the world, and unsurprisingly, airline bosses are against a rise. I am also against it because I think that is an absolute punishment. I find it quite amusing that we not only tax everything, but we have to tax more than everyone else. A great example would be our alcohol duty. It is ridiculously high, and we should tax that more because we don't want to see drunks on our streets. How dare they have fun when there are services to help them, should they fall? And how dare people fly? I get the point, though, about climate change. I really do. But the duty is far too high. And raising it even more, come on. Policy number 6. Spend $10.6 billion more a year on schools to hire up to 20,000 more teachers, which will be by the end of the next Parliament, which would be 2024. However, this one is hard to deliver on. Schools in England decide how to spend their own budgets. Many of the posts that have disappeared have been support staff such as counsellors or librarian. Head teachers can restore these posts, and there is pressure to get the results that teachers' jobs are often the last to go, although some are quietly not replaced. The Liberal Democrat funding offer means that by 2023 or 2024, schools in England will be back to where they were in 2010 once costs are taken into account, and it will grow further. There are 453,400 teachers in England, but there's also a population bulge that has just hit secondary schools, which is due to continue until 2025. On tuition fees, a previously politically toxic issue for the Liberal Democrats because they vote the coalition. Yeah, that screwed you guys. A review of the university finance is promised by the next Parliament, but there is a commitment to reinstate maintenance grant for the poorest students, which would lower their overall borrowing for a degree. Now, I will say, for the sake of university, I did not support the tuition fee increase. I understood, though, why it had to happen. I lucked out. I got the lower end on everything, and that was lucky. But to those who haven't lucked out in that way and have been financially screwed because of it, I am so sorry that you got stabbed in the back by the Liberal Democrats who couldn't stick a heel in and keep that one decent thing in place that would have helped them out so much. But again, I understood why it had to happen. 7. Legalize cannabis. A contentious argument for many people. I used to argue with people over this because my interest was always in the health of the person, not in the money we could make from taxing it. But I also understood at the time also that it would also have an aid in the issue surrounding addiction. There are studies on this. It's quite interesting. But then there are counter studies as well. It's contentious. I personally don't care for cannabis, but I wouldn't go so far as to say we should ban it. If you can make money off it, go ahead. But my real issue has always been the safety and the health of the people who smoke it. First and foremost, after all. I also am very much well aware that cannabis can serve medicinal purposes, and so therefore I would support it in medicinal circumstances. Again, though, health is of more interest to me. But as far as proposals in the Liberal Democrat Manifesto go, this is one of the more radical ones. This also comes after the regulated cannabis markets in Uruguay, Canada, and some US states, which has then prompted this change in the UK, or desire to change it. They believe, the Liberal Democrats believe, it could break the grip of criminal gangs that profit from the lucrative trade in illegal drugs, which is a very powerful argument. Evidence, however, suggests that it wouldn't end the black market for under-18s, nor for those wanting more potent strains. There is also concern it could encourage greater use of the drug and act as a gateway to more harmful substances, which is why most of the other political parties will not make the same commitment. It'll be very interesting to see how that one plays out as the campaign unfolds, but it certainly will get a lot of younger people and more liberal, older people on their side. But I'm sure other issues take precedent. This is just one of them. I'm very interested to know what you think of all these policies. Please let me know. I think they're interesting. I'm looking forward to the other manifestos coming out so we can go through those as well.